Snow drifted gently outside the restaurant windows, turning the streets into a glowing Christmas postcard, but inside Emma Carter felt colder than she ever had in her life. The restaurant was warm, elegant, wrapped in golden fairy lights and evergreen wreaths, yet her hands trembled slightly as they rested in her lap. This was supposed to be a fresh start. A blind date on Christmas Eve, her friend insisted it was fate, that sometimes the best gifts arrived when you least expected them. Emma had believed her, even after everything she had been through. She had worn her green dress, simple but beautiful, the kind that made her feel hopeful again. She had arrived early, sat straight, practiced smiling in the reflection of her water glass, and told herself that tonight could be different. For once, she wouldn't be the girl who was overlooked, judged, or quietly dismissed. When Daniel arrived, she knew within seconds that something was wrong. He was polite, too polite, with the stiff smile of someone already planning their escape. His eyes scanned the room more than they looked at her. He spoke about himself endlessly, his job, his plans, his expectations, without ever asking about hers. Emma nodded, laughed softly at the right moments, but her heart slowly sank. She recognized the signs. She had seen them too many times before. And then, just as the waiter brought the bread basket, Daniel cleared his throat and said the words that felt like ice water poured straight into her chest. He wasn't ready for this. He had expected someone different. Someone more his type. He hoped she understood. He placed a few bills on the table, wished her a Merry Christmas, and walked away without looking back. Emma sat frozen, humiliation burning her cheeks as conversations and laughter buzzed around her. No one else seemed to notice her small heartbreak unfolding in the middle of a festive restaurant. She stared at the empty chair across from her, fighting the urge to cry. She told herself she wouldn't. Not tonight. Not again. But the loneliness was louder than the Christmas music playing softly in the background. She wondered why rejection always seemed to find her, no matter how hard she tried to be enough. Was it her past? Her quiet nature? Or was she simply invisible in a world that celebrated louder, brighter people? She picked up her napkin, pretending to adjust it, just to give her hands something to do. That was when she felt a small tug on her dress. Emma looked down, startled, and found herself staring into the wide, curious eyes of a little girl standing beside her chair. The child couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old. She wore a red Christmas dress trimmed with white, tiny boots, and clutched a worn teddy bear as if it were her most precious possession. Her cheeks were rosy, her smile shy but hopeful. "Hi," the little girl said softly, as if afraid Emma might disappear if she spoke too loudly. Emma blinked, momentarily forgetting her own sadness. "Hi there," she replied gently, forcing a smile. The girl tilted her head, studying Emma's face with a seriousness that felt far too wise for someone so small. "Why are you sad?" she asked, her voice innocent and direct. Emma let out a small, surprised laugh. "I guess. I just had a hard night," she said honestly. The little girl nodded as if that made perfect sense. Then, without hesitation, she asked the question that would change everything. "Can you be my new mom?" Emma's breath caught. For a moment, she thought she must have misheard. "What?" she whispered. "My mom went to heaven," the girl said simply, hugging her teddy tighter. "Daddy says she was very kind. You look kind too." The world seemed to pause. Emma felt something crack open inside her chest, something she didn't even realize had been closed off for years. Before she could respond, a man hurried over, his face etched with concern. He was tall, wearing a dark coat, his eyes filled with apology and exhaustion. "Sophie," he said gently, kneeling beside his daughter. "I'm so sorry." She wandered off. "I hope she didn't bother you." Emma shook her head quickly. "No, not at all," she said, her voice softer than it had been all evening. The man smiled politely, then glanced at the empty chair across from Emma and the untouched place setting. He understood without needing an explanation. "Christmas can be complicated," he said quietly. Emma nodded. "That's one way to put it." Sophie looked between them, then reached for Emma's hand. "Daddy, she's sad," she announced. "We should help her." Something in the man's expression shifted, surprise, warmth, and something else Emma couldn't quite name. "I'm Mark," he said, extending his hand. Would you like to join us?" No pressure. Just so you don't have to sit alone. Emma hesitated. Part of her wanted to retreat, to protect herself from disappointment. But another part, the part that had just been seen by a little girl who believed kindness mattered more than perfection, nodded. I'd like that, she said. They moved to Mark and Sophie's table, where the atmosphere felt instantly different. Softer. Real. Sophie climbed onto her chair and chattered happily, showing Emma her teddy bear's name, her favorite Christmas song, and how she could count to 20 all by herself. Mark watched them, his eyes filled with gratitude. He told Emma about Sophie's mother, about loss, about learning to be both parents at once. Emma listened, truly listened, and for the first time in a long while, she felt needed, not for what she could impress or prove, but simply for who she was. As the night went on, laughter replaced the ache in her chest. When Sophie grew sleepy, she leaned against Emma without hesitation, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Emma felt tears sting her eyes again, but this time they were warm. Hopeful. She realized that rejection had brought her exactly where she was meant to be. Not at a perfect table with a perfect stranger, but here, with a little girl who saw her heart before anything else. Outside, the snow continued to fall, and inside, something new began. A connection. A possibility. A reminder that sometimes, life takes something away only to give you something far greater in return. And if this story touched your heart, remember, beautiful moments can appear when you least expect them. Don't miss the next one. Subscribe to the channel for more emotional, life-changing stories that remind us why love, kindness, and hope always matter, especially at Christmas.